Hi, my name is Dishare and I'm a consultant at Decision Lab. And I'm here to provide a case study on a project that I recently worked on, which is on engineering the antifragile supply chain. And in this video, we will learn how AstraZeneca and Decision Lab built a strategic simulation twin for global capacity planning. The project had some fantastic results and it worked really well. So, before I delve into the further details of the project, I will present to you a few words from Gareth Alford, who is the new Technology Innovation Director at AstraZeneca.
Hi, my name is Gareth Alford, and I'm a new Technology Introduction Director, part of the Manufacturing Technology and Strategy team here in AstraZeneca. My world revolves around a simple yet incredibly complex goal: working with our talented scientists, turning science into medicine at a global scale. A critical part of this is planning for the future, deciding where and when to invest millions of pounds in new manufacturing capacity to meet the needs of patients for the next decade. For years, like much of the industry, our long-range planning was anchored in a familiar process, a complex web of disconnected spreadsheets and manual data consolidation. The honest truth is, this process was painfully slow and inherently fragile. What that meant in practice was that our view of the future was based on a single deterministic forecast. We were planning for a perfect, straight line in a world that was anything but. This wasn't just an operational headache, it was a strategic vulnerability when looking at aligning new technology investments to business needs. When you face pipeline uncertainty, shifting global demand, and supply chain disruptions, making million-pound decisions based on a single, fragile view of the future introduces a significant risk when it comes to new technology investment. We realized that simply reacting to the short-term portfolio needs was placing our new technology platforms on the critical path for product launch. This is an unacceptable position, and we needed to be able to look at the long-term impacts of the technologies to support strategic business investment decisions. We needed to fundamentally change our approach. We needed to build a system that could thrive on uncertainty, not just withstand it. And that set us on this path to this collaboration and anti-fragility.
Over the last few years, we proved we can survive disruption. But surviving isn't just the goal. Our goal is to turn volatility into a competitive advantage. On the left over here, you can see three different outcomes. I'll explain each of them with examples from the 2020 to 2022 semiconductor shortage in the auto industry. Fragile systems, they broke. Companies like Ford, GM, and Volkswagen relied on just-in-time supply chains. When chips ran out, production stopped, costing the industry over $200 billion. Resilient systems, on the other hand, they survived. Toyota, having learned from the 2011 Fukushima disaster, required suppliers to hold months of inventory. When the shortage hit, Toyota kept factories running while the competitors stalled. But anti-fragile systems, they go further. Tesla treated the shortage as an opportunity. Instead of waiting, they rewrote software to use alternative chips and deepened control over the supply chain. Every disruption made them more adaptable and competitive. So that's the shift we made. Resilience alone is defensive. It keeps you from losing, but it rarely helps you win. We built a system that learns from noise and stress, so every cycle makes us fitter, just like training muscles in the gym. This required a fundamental change in our philosophy, from reactive plans to proactive ones. The intent isn't just to endure volatility, but it's to thrive on it and create a competitive advantage. We designed a strategic platform to operationalize anti-fragility so that the system doesn't just withstand shocks, it improves because of them. The platform replaces traditional Excel-based workflows and unifies three different simulation models linked end-to-end. Under the hood, simulations run on AnyLogic Cloud. React provides the web UI, and a Node.js backend acts as a server. We use WebSockets between AnyLogic and our API so that the app can stream status and results in real time. On this slide, you can see screenshots from the platform. The first screenshot on the left shows a branching tree where each node represents a scenario for one of the models. You can create multiple branches, pass outputs from one scenario to another, and resume from any checkpoint. The next screenshot displays an AnyLogic animation run of one of the models. You can see assets progressing from one phase to the next. This lets users visualize flow, spot bottlenecks if any, and validate assumptions, so results are easier to trust and understand. The third picture shows a graph of multiple runs. It helps us understand the stochasticity in the model and how results vary from run to run. This helps us spot any patterns, quantify uncertainty, and choose effective strategies. The final screenshot that you see is the scenario comparison view, which lines up scenarios side by side. You can immediately see how they differ on key KPIs, and this helps users pick the scenario that best fits the goal under uncertainty. So, what were the core technical elements required to meet this challenge? For us, it came down to two capabilities that were essential to meeting AstraZeneca's anti-fragility goals. The first is range-based planning. We can't bet on a single future. We need to see how a plan holds up across many plausible futures. And in this case, we used AnyLogic. It lets us run Monte Carlo experiments, thousands of trials with varied inputs, so we see the full spread of the outcome. This makes it practical to choose strategies that work across the range and not just at one fragile point. The second is modularity. We didn't build one model, we built three models: the portfolio, demand, and capacity. And these need to evolve independently. With AnyLogic Cloud, each model runs as its own service, called on demand through the API, so we can update or scale one without touching the others, isolate issues quickly, and still deliver a single seamless experience to users. Thus, put together, they provide the anti-fragile foundation we need. As I was mentioning earlier, the platform connects three different models together: the portfolio, the demand, and the capacity. I'll briefly explain what each one does. The first is the portfolio model. It simulates potential future assets and how they move through various lifecycle stages in the R&D pipeline. Next is the demand model. It takes the portfolio model's outputs and converts them into quarterly forecasts for the next several years. Finally, the capacity model evaluates different manufacturing scenarios and investment strategies to make sure those forecasted demands can be met under a range of conditions. As you can see in the diagram, we can selectively pass the tables we need from one model to the next, so only the relevant data flows forward. Each model is independent and the platform stitches them together, so data moves cleanly, runs are repeatable, and we can pick up from any checkpoint. So that's how we turn three specialist models into one streamlined decision workflow. On this slide, we're showing how the platform shifts us from single point forecasting to range-based planning. It also acts as an educational tool, making anti-fragility tangible and helping drive a culture shift so everyone in the business understands and uses the concept. This is the multi-run view of the portfolio model. Instead of asking what's the forecast, we ask what's the range of possible futures. We run the model many times using Monte Carlo, adding realistic randomness, and then plot the outcomes together. The heat map on the right shows the number of assets launched per year across those runs, with darker cells indicating outcomes that occur more often in the Monte Carlo, thus visually conveying the uncertainty and where the distribution clusters. As you can see from the graph, in 2026, the most common outcome is 26 launches with a probability of 40%, and most runs are falling between 23 and 26. That range matters. Planning for 23 assets versus 29 assets leads to different resource, budget, and capacity choices. So we plan to a range and not a single point. On the left, we can filter which runs to carry forward as inputs to the next model in the chain, and this lets us test decisions against different futures and not just one run. So in summary, by simulating thousands of scenarios and working with the full range, we choose plans that hold up under variability rather than ones finely tuned to a single fragile point. Okay, so we are now moving into the exciting part, which is the demo of the whole platform, and you can see the platform operating live. So this is the homepage of our platform, and we'll start by importing some existing data over here. After we've done that, you'll be able to see a graph view of all the scenarios, and this graph helps us understand and visualize the passing of outputs from one scenario to another, and it depicts which scenarios are related, so it makes it easy to compare the results. Next, we'll begin by creating a new portfolio scenario from scratch. We enter the scenario name, give some tags to describe the scenario, and if we click on continue, it takes us to the inputs page of the portfolio scenario, where we can see some inputs already populated. If we want to, we could change them, or if we're happy with the inputs, we go on to the next page, which is the run page, where we pass the inputs to AnyLogic and we run the embedded animation. So as the portfolio animation runs, you'll see assets advance phase by phase from the candidate selection phase to phase 3. This is a model of AstraZeneca's research and development activities, and it determines which assets will be commercialized. So you can see in the animated timelines that some assets make it all the way to phase 3, but there are many which are terminated before they reach that phase. So we can see here that there are a lot of assets in phase 1, but only a few of them make it to phase 3. If we want to, we can fast forward the animation and we can run it till the end quicker. When we've seen the animations, we'll move on to the outputs page, which has some graphs populated. So you can visualize all the results of the model run. If we want to, we can also compare different model runs that we had done previously over here and compare all the KPIs in a tabular as well as in a graphical format. It makes it easy to visualize everything. And then we go back to the scenario page, and as you've noticed, there was a Monte Carlo tab. This helps us create a Monte Carlo run instead of a single animation run. So we'll run the Monte Carlo, and we can see that it is running the model in the backend. As we can see, the outputs are fetched. We move on to the outputs page, where we can see the results of the Monte Carlo run. And you can see this is the multi-run graph view page, where we are bringing the full range of uncertainty into this graph. Each run reflects a plausible future. So you can see how the manufacturing estimates shift as the portfolio changes. We can remove the runs and we can filter the results as to our liking. And we can also select which of the runs we want to pass on to as inputs to the next model. Creating a demand model from here, and we are filtering which runs we want to pass as inputs to the next model. And if we click on continue, we'll move on to the demand model input page, which looks very similar to the portfolio model input page, but it just has different tables. And when we're happy with the inputs, we move on to the animation of the demand model. And if we run the animation, you can fast forward it and you can see the animation progressing, and the animation is now complete. So this concludes our demo. The next step would be to go to the outputs page of the demand model, which is quite similar to the portfolio model. And it's similar for the next sequence where you pass the outputs of the demand model as inputs into the capacity model. The impact for AstraZeneca shows up in 3 different ways. The first is automated workflows. We replaced slow manual Excel-based data handling, which led to copy-paste errors, fragile links, and weak versioning with an end-to-end pipeline. This frees AstraZeneca experts from spreadsheet work so they can focus on high-value strategic analysis. The second is a shared language. The UI is quite explainable, it's visual, and it's educational. It helps different teams highlight pain points, align on targets, and get the same message across, thus reducing friction and speeding up decision making. We can also say that it gives technical teams and leaders a single trusted view of all the models. The third is data-driven confidence. Range-based results are transparent and user-validated, and by modeling at a higher level of detail, by breaking modules into sub-modules, we're striving for higher accuracy. This lets leadership de-risk high-stakes investment and network decisions with robust evidence. So, to put it simply, it provides greater agility to AstraZeneca. We are now moving into the next phase of development, focus on scale and day-to-day usability. Building on the success of phase 1 and with the customer pleased with the outcomes, we're working with AstraZeneca to deliver phase 2. Some of the features that are to be included in the next phase are modeling version across all the models. We'll introduce version control for portfolio, demand, and capacity. That means different versions of each model, side-by-side comparisons, and rollback when needed. So changes are traceable and teams always know which version they're running. The second is multiple capacity models for each asset type. We'll add different capacity models rather than a single one, each tuned to a different asset type. They'll plug into the same platform so we can select the right capacity model for the problem while keeping a consistent workflow. The third is a richer UI. We aim to incorporate enhanced visualization features and add interactivity to animations to improve user engagement and clarity of simulation results. Thank you for listening. We hope you found the information to be useful. If you have any questions for us, please do reach out to us. We have added our contact details to the slide, so please feel free to contact us and we would be happy to get into a conversation on the topic and extend it further. Thank you.